Hey y'all, it's me, Kevvie. In my life update / comeback video, I mentioned that I haven't been reading much lately. At the end of Trans Girl April, I DNF'd 2 books back to back, and then the slump just hit at full force. I'm still trying to get back into reading more, but while I'm going through the slump, I wanted to share with y'all something else that I've recently become passionate about. By now, you've probably heard me talk about my roommate Zerby a few times, and most recently, on my channel, I've uploaded her GoFundMe video. When Zerby first moved in, one of the first things she introduced me to was Dimension 20, which is basically a televised version of Dungeons and Dragons. Basically, a group of comedians sit around a table and collaboratively tell an epic adventure story. Most of the cast, known collectively as the Intrepid Heroes, each plays as a single character, and going into the campaign knows nothing about the plot, just the backstory for their own character. Then you have Brennan Lee Mulligan, the Game Master. Brennan's job is huge. He has to develop the entire world that the story's set in, build the plot and all possible storylines and side quests that could go into it, depending on players' choices. And he plays every single other character they encounter throughout the campaign. So Brennan sets up the story for the Intrepid Heroes, and then they decide what their characters would do in those circumstances, which alters whatever comes next. The series is very much improvised, with the heroes acting on the spot and Brennan changing the story accordingly. It's so impressive. Another element of the series, and D&D in general, that's just so fascinating, is that much of what happens is controlled by the roll of a die. Each player has several dice, ranging in size from 4 to 20, and then let's say a character wants to sneak past some guards unobserved. Brennan will tell them which die to roll, and if they roll high enough, they can sneak successfully. But if they roll low, the bad guys will see them. So much of the storytelling aspect is left up to chance, which is so exciting because you never know how the story is going to end up. Now that I've laid out the groundwork for how this series works, let me tell you about some of the different seasons, the different campaigns that they've played. Each season tells an entirely different story with new characters, new tone, setting, environment, everything's different. A couple of the campaigns are related, but for the most part, they're standalone adventures. The first campaign I watched was Never After. Never After is a horror campaign about fairy tales with a dark twist. So you've got characters like Little Red Riding Hood, Puss in Boots, Pinocchio, the Frog Prince, Sleeping Beauty, and Mother Goose. Working together, these fairy tale mishaps try to uncover what happened to their tales that turned them so twisted and bleak, and hopefully they can find happily ever after. One of the best seasons they've done is A Crown of Candy. Think Game of Thrones, except set in Candyland, and they're at war with the other food groups. It's so cool. That one was so immensely popular that they even just produced a prequel season to it called The Ravening War. Something I want to note with A Crown of Candy in particular is the length of these seasons. The shortest episodes might be 90 minutes. But typically they're over 2 hours. And A Crown of Candy, I believe, is 17 or 18 episodes. If you are a fan of Game of Thrones and that kind of story, this one season has more hours of content than the entirety of Game of Thrones. So good and well worth your time. Fantasy High was the first season they produced. It was so popular that they even did a sequel season, several spin-off campaigns, and even just announced a 3rd season of it coming out in January. Fantasy High is about all of your classic fantasy races going to magical high school together. They even have a sci-fi campaign called A Starstruck Odyssey, which is based on a comic book series created by Brennan's mother. In between their big seasons with the Intrepid Heroes, which can be up to 20 episodes, they produce lots of smaller side quests where they mix up the cast, dungeon master, even the entire game system. Those tend to be closer to 4 to 6 episodes, making them quicker and easier to get into if you're new to it. My favorite side quest so far is Misfits in Magic, which is basically, what if Harry Potter wasn't written by a bigot? It's so funny and cozy. The season is hosted by Bria Iyengar, and I love her as the game master. Misfits in Magic is about 4 non-magical students who are admitted to a wizard school as part of a pilot program to determine whether or not the school should start being open to muggles. This season was so popular, they even brought it back for a Christmas special. And oh, it's so cozy. If you're a fan of Harry Potter or just like cozy reads and stories in general, Misfits and Magic is the season for you. Mice and Murder is a murder mystery campaign. In this one, the roll of the die determines the quality of the clue you receive. I have to admit, I haven't watched it yet, I know. But because it's a murder mystery, it is at the top of my want to watch list. If you're a fan of heist movies, then you'll love Tiny Heist, which is set in a Toy Story kind of world. Escape from the Blood Keep is classic fantasy. Think Lord of the Rings. Literally, it's Lord of the Rings, but from the perspective of the villains. The Court of Fae and Flowers is another Abria-led campaign, and it's about the politics and relationships of bird people at the biggest social event of the season. Over the summer, Dimension 20 did kind of a drag race crossover, bringing 4 big-name drag queens, Bob the Drag Queen, Monet Exchange, Alaska Thunderfuck, and Jujubee, to play in Dungeons and Drag Queens. Most of them had never played D&D before, so they did a lot more explaining the basics and the mechanics that they tend to gloss over during other seasons. If you are a Drag Race fan or unfamiliar with how D&D works, this could be a great season to start with. The most recent side quest they did has been one of my favorites. It's called Mentopolis, and it is a hard-boiled film noir detective mystery set inside a person's mind. It's basically the movie Inside Out, except they're also trying to solve a murder. This season took the production to a whole new level, and it just blew me away again and again and again. Definitely a season I'd recommend. The next season of Dimension 20 is going to be a side quest called Burrow's End. It looks like it's going to basically be Watership Down, but with ferrets. I'm stoked to see if the season where everyone plays an adorable little forest critter gets as bleak and gruesome as the reference material. Also, it's another season hosted by Abria. Burrow's End premieres October 4th. If you want to watch it while it airs, make sure to sign up for Dropout. It's one of my favorite streaming services. Exclusively original content, only $6 a month, and they're very chill and encourage password sharing. So sign up or borrow a password and start watching Dimension 20. Which season of Dimension 20 are you most interested in watching? Want to see me talk about more Dimension 20 or Dropout TV content? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if it pleases and sparkles, I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!